Good evening. This is the Wednesday, March 15th, 2017 meeting of the Finance Committee. We're starting on time at 7 o'clock. Our agenda tonight is a review of budgets. We have one transfer tonight. Actually, we'll be doing that before the budgets. We will do a quick review of minutes. We'll set our agenda for next week and then we'll adjourn. The budgets that we'll be going over are the Department of Development and Inspectional Services, the Zoning Board of Appeals, Solid Waste, Department of Public Works, Youth Commission. So let's start off with a transfer. This is under the under planning. Okay, we've got two.
Department of Inspectional Services, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, what does that say? Plan. Okay.
Oh,
So
from
Inspection
planning.
Services.
But into, right.
Okay. DDIS. Glad we're all on the same page. That's great. Two transfers. First transfer is going into the local inspector salary. Amount requested $900 from the assistant planner / energy manager. Reason for the transfer is compensation for the emergency calls inspections. Darlene is here. Thank you for joining us. We'll open any questions on this. Do we have a motion if we don't?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Thank you. And our second transfer tonight, this is going to the building salary account. Amount requested $2,008, also from the assistant planning energy manager account, and this is for completion of state certifications. Darlene, can you fill us in on what this is about?
Sure. Good evening.
Good evening.
So the transfer for the second transfer, we had our building commissioner, Caleb Moody, has passed a series of the state certifications, and this transfer will cover the cost of that. He has since completed all of the certifications, and I'm proud to say he's in compliance with the state commissioner requirements.
Great. That is good news. Any further questions on this transfer?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Darlene, we'll get right into your budgets.
Yep.
Great, thank you. All right, I'm going to take these just a little out of order because I know a couple of these budgets are floating around somewhere in the depths of our budget book. Let's go to the Zoning Board of Appeals first, which is item B on this. See if I can find it. There it is. Great. Board of Appeals. The budget requested by the town manager is $13,283. This is a $536 increase over prior year. And Darlene, while we have just a real quick and brief on what the Zoning Board of Appeals does.
Sure. So the Zoning Board of Appeals budget is made up of the admin assistant salary, the clerk that we have do the functions of this board. Basically, she organizes the agendas. She takes, gets the plans prepared, all of the paperwork that goes to the board for their meetings. She is paid out of this department salary as well as planning and Concom. So she does the functions of all three. We also have some money in there for education. If the Zoning Board of Appeal members want to attend any of the trainings, and I believe there is a training coming up within the next couple of weeks that we have a board or two going to that. So it's basically to cover the cost of education.
Okay. Hey, correct me if I'm wrong, they meet at least a couple of times a month? It just seems like they're meeting all the time.
Sure. So they actually meet, I believe it's the third Thursday of the month, and they will hear appeals of the building commissioner and also for applications of special permits, variances to the zoning bylaw.
Okay, great. I'll open this up to any questions. No? Do we have motion on this?
Motion to recommend?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next department I'd like to look at also under Darlene is solid waste. And the solid waste budget for the first time has topped $1 million. Ed, we got to work on this. Come on, we try keeping this under $1 million. Town manager recommends,
You recycle more,
that's a good point.
maybe we can lower the,
That's a good point. Town manager recommends a budget of $1,014,996, which is an increase of approximately $35,000, just under that from prior year. The two biggest parts of this budget are the solid waste collection and the solid waste disposal. And it's the solid waste collection that's been planned up this year. Darlene, just any quick comments on this?
Sure. So the, as you stated, the collection and the disposal are the primary heaviness of the budget. For collection, as you may recall, we are about midway in our contract with the solid waste collection with Republic Services. We renewed our contract, a 3-year contract, and this amount reflects the annual increase. We have a 3.25% increase in that budget, in that contract yearly. So we have that there. We had planned for that contract and an increase for toters. As you may know, we have had the toters through the previous contract. The Solid Waste Advisory Committee worked hard through the contract negotiations to try to make accommodations for the toters. As you know, they're nearing about 10 years, which is kind of more towards their useful life. So we had put into the contract some leeway for so many toters per year. So I think we have worked into the budget about 100 free toters per year. So we have assessed that to try to keep track of how many that we're doing. And looking forward in the next budget, in the next contract, we'll try to make sure that that is equal, but we had to accommodate for purchasing the toters outright and then also trying to come up with some sort of adjustment so that we could handle the toters when residents have a broken lid or a wheel that goes missing. We are also looking internally at some options for trying to take some of those repairs on. We're just having some discussions about that to try to see if we can bring costs down. So there is some adjustments in for the collection because of some toter concerns that we have.
Okay, Ed, do you look like you have something to add to that, or?
in addition to that, I know, and maybe Darlene can help me out here, we do get periodic DEP grants that allow for the purchase of some toters as well. So is that about $5,000, $6,000 grant?
Yeah, we have, because we do a good job at recycling, we can always do a better job at recycling, but we have a a recycling coordinator, Amy Sullivan, who has been extremely helpful in identifying grants that are available out there, and we get recycling dividend points, and so we we typically have been getting anywhere in the range of $5,000 to a little over $6,000 per year. And so with that, we're able to purchase extra recycling toters, and those go to residents that request that want to recycle more and take less out of their trash, which is what we want to encourage. So we've been very successful in purchasing. I think we're on our second round of purchase toters. Get the toters in. DPW is kind enough. Usually Wayne's the one delivering the toters, and so we usually have a waiting list for that. So we've been able to use
Somewhere
those.
there's a nickname in there, isn't there? It's going to come out. Sorry to interrupt, Darlene.
So we're able to use some of those funds to help, help push the recycling awareness.
Okay, great. Unless there's any other questions. The only other question I had was, it looks like we've got a new solid waste, I don't want to say police, but compliance officer position. It's only $3,000, so just a little bit about what's going on with that.
Sure.
Darlene, please.
That's a piece of what our share would be. Once again, this is grant-driven. It's a 2-year grant. What's the value of the grant? $18,000?
$25,000.
So our share on an annual, over a 2-year period, is $6,000. This would be year 1. The compliance officer would basically be the police of recycling. Make sure
I wasn't going to say that.
just make sure it's not in the waste stream that goes to the wheel. That's going to translate to savings by having the tonnage go down. It is a good benefit for the residents by way of rate setting. We're trying to minimize our costs as best we can. Certainly, this is a 2-year program. I think the matter is currently before the Board of Health, who are going to set policy and guidelines with respect to this position. So I think it's still in the works right now, Donna?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the position that we have here, DEP is giving us a chance to be able to increase awareness to try to bring down disposal costs. So ultimately, our disposal cost for Wheelabrator have gone up consistently. We are in the range of 4,400 tons per year, and that is an increase over the past 5 years. We're looking at it as a chance for this person to be able to really be kind of out in the field, be able to educate residents when they see, if they see something in the solid waste toter that doesn't belong. So I don't know if I've mentioned it here before, but I know I've mentioned it for Board of Health. Sometimes if you're just driving around on any given trash day, you can see solid waste toters overflowing. So if that lid is not down on the solid waste toter, Republic has a contract with us, and Solid Waste has set policy that we don't want them to pick that up, because anything that is not fitting in that trash toter, it should be in a blue bag, an overflow bag that goes on the side of the toter. We want to have people recycle. This person will be able to go out to answer questions about if their toter is overflowing. Okay, so perhaps, let's see, do you know what goes in the recycling toter? Do you have a recycling toter? Is your toter broken? Let's work to get you, the tools you need in order to do, to recycle and put waste in the right spot. So we're looking at this position to really be an educator out there. We're not looking to be in a police mentality. We spent a lot of time working with Solid Waste Advisory Committee and Board of Health, and they really see this as an opportunity to be able to let's educate residents and be able to the ultimate goal is to reduce our cost so that we don't have to come to you with a budget that's over $1 million. So.
I'm still throwing that on the CFO. That's just me, though. All right, any other questions? There's only a few line items on this.
Yes, question. What's the big increase here in the other pickup line? It went from, actually, this for last year. Can you refresh me? What does that line include?
Sure. So the other pickup was $5,000 for FY17. It is $5,000 for FY18 as a request. That other pickup line has to do with any costs that have to do with the blue overflow bags. So we have a budget for purchasing those. As you may know, there's a couple of places in town, the supermarkets that sell the bags. So there's money that comes back to the town on those. And then we also use this line item if we have any unforeseen disposal costs. So in the past year, a couple that are jumping out to me, we've had a couple of vacant properties that we had to either demo or clean out. And so that cost, when there's not an owner that can be held responsible, the town has to pick up those costs. So we use that as a safety net for those instances for solid waste.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep, motion to recommend?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved. Great. Thanks, Darlene.
Thank you.
Okay, the inspectional services budgets. Let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 divisions within this. Okay, just once again, we'll take these one division at a time. The first one is the public health division. That, I'll call it subtotal on that. My request is $230,273. Same as just above the department request, actually. I think a salary adjustment within there. The prior year appropriation, initial appropriation was $173,957. If you give us just a brief on what this division does,
Sure.
please.
So the Public Health Division is responsible for a number of different required inspections, as well as responding to any concerns for health or environment in the town. Basically, there has been an increase over last year's budget. I came to you several months ago, and you were very generous in allowing us to put forward an idea of bringing on a part-time health inspector. I am happy to say that position has been filled and the person has started. We are looking to be able to keep up with the demand for inspections on us. So we have required inspections that we have to do for establishments that we permit and license, as well as responding to any complaints that come into the department. Often our response includes the other divisions. A lot of times Building and Board of Health will have to go for concerns for properties that have issues structurally and health-wise. So often it's a unified approach. So in this budget, that part-time inspector, we have requested to have that part-time inspector to be a full-time inspector, and in the hopes of bringing up our inspection compliance and being able to meet the needs of the department.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to questions right now. This is just on the division. We're not going to take a vote on the divisions, but if there's any questions, Kevin?
Just some clarification on the department request for inspector at 90,000, town manager recommendation 42, and then the line above at 51.
If you look up above, we carved out this, the assistant health director's position is a new position in the FY18 budget. Darlene currently does not have an assistant in that division. Darlene is the health director, but because of her duties and responsibilities, a lot of what the department does on a day-to-day basis needs to fall under the control of an assistant, because Darlene may be focused on other matters within other divisions within the department on a day-to-day basis. That's an important piece of what we are recommending. In addition to that, I think Darlene indicated to you, and we started this in the current fiscal year, we created a half-time inspector's position. We are morphing that into a full-time position as of July 1. So the inspector's position that is recommended at 90, we removed one position and put it into the assistant health director's position. That's why you see a reduction. It's not that we're not meeting her recommendation, we're just handling it a different way within the department.
Just another question.
Go ahead, Jeff. Yep, absolutely.
So this department, and through licensing, also generates revenue. Am I correct in that? Any idea? Can you give me a ballpark as to, I mean, what an amount and how much is offset through licensing fees and things like that?
We have, so we license a number of different establishments. So we license food, we do camps, tanning, beaches, solid waste, disposal works installers. I would have to get back to you. I'm sorry.
You're also, through these positions, by meeting the needs of people seeking licenses, you're clearing those more quickly and
Absolutely.
creating a better business environment for people looking to start a restaurant or whatever it may be. Correct.
And one thing that I can say, by increasing the ability to be able to respond, there's a lot of activities that go on that really should be licensed, but without the ability to have staff to reach out and educate and explain the licensing process to people, we're missing an opportunity. So I can tell you, even in the short amount of time that we've had the inspector on, she's already captured at least a handful. So, it's moving forward in the right direction. Again, it also gives us the ability for the required inspections per the state requirements to be able to go out to review all the permits that somebody may have. In some instances, we've saved or consolidated permits when we can. So it's a balance of trying to make sure that everybody who needs to be permitted is, and to also make sure that they have the correct permits.
Thank you.
Does that answer?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions on the Public Health Division? Okay, let's move on then. The next division is the Planning Division. And the town manager recommends a division total of $72,794. This is actually down $10,710 from prior year. Darlene, can you fill us in on this, please?
Sure. So this division, we are able to, as you may recall, we had the energy manager, assistant planner, vacate within the past couple of months, vacate the position. And we were able to utilize the town planner in a dual role. So a lot of what we do in the department, we try to figure out what efficiencies we can make, and this was one area that we were able to make a combination. So the planner, who is Matthew Benoit, took on the role for energy manager. A lot of what we had for the energy manager to be able to establish the position several years ago, they did a great job of laying the groundwork for a lot of the grants that we have. So it's and because the town planner worked very closely with the energy manager, he was aware of a lot of what the responsibilities for that position were. So we were able to get some savings there, and we were also, as you know, the municipal aggregation piece of what we have established. We now have some savings that come into the town for that, so we're able to offset the salary with municipal aggregation.
Good. Any questions on this division? Kev?
Just briefly, I mean, I understand you lost your assistant planner, but at what point are you putting too much on Matt? Is that a position you hope to bring back at some point? You know, putting too many hats on one person. Matt does a great job at what he does, but is that a concern down the line that you'd be looking to bring in some relief for him? Maybe not this year, but in future years?
Yeah, that's a great point. So it is something that we are obviously trying. If we will continually assess to see if we need to get help in that area. We have made some adjustments for the meeting requirements, for making sure we have somebody in that role to help, where the assistant planner did help in meetings and making sure administrative functions were handled. So we're trying to make some adjustments also within the department through our admin assistants as well, to take some of the pressure off for paperwork and that sort of thing. So we may have to come before you again for an adjustment for this, but we're going to see, you know, how this goes and assess as we go.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Matt's a young guy. We could drill him for a while there. He's going to hate me saying that. Any other questions?
I don't want to burn him out either, though.
No, absolutely not, and I do get concerned about that. Any other questions on this division? No? Okay. Next division is the Building and Code Enforcement Division. The town manager recommendation for this division is $156,093. This is an increase of $40,219. I believe this is our at the staff is in this budget. So if you could fill us in on this, I hope it is.
Sure. So the big increase for this division for the budget is going to be for the local inspector. So as in past years, this has been a position that we've had trouble actually filling, because it is a part-time position at this point. So it took some time when we had some changing of the guards in the building department. So we're happy that we now have a full-time commissioner in the spot, and has been a stable position. We have a local inspector who works part-time at 14 hours per week. We were very fortunate to be able to fill that position, because it's not a fit for everybody, you know, because people generally want a full-time job. But this position was filled for 14 hours and has been a great big help for the building commissioner, Caleb. But help in that position. So we are proposing to make the local inspector a full-time position. I realize that, it's a big request, but we need the help in order to make sure that we are meeting the needs of the department. We have inspections, scheduled every day. We have annual inspections that need to be done through a timeline, and we have complaints. We have a lot of people, if they know that there's not enough help to be able to follow through. There's a lot of people that do building in town that don't get permits. So we're looking to, again, be able to try to bring balance to the position so that we can be available to educate. When, people call the office and have questions, you can answer people's questions, but you can also meet the needs of the inspections that have to be done for the position and the enforcement that has to be done. So the 14 hours, we're really just barely getting by.
Okay. Any other questions on this division? Mallory?
For Ed, I noticed that the town manager's recommendation is about $3,200 less than the department request for the local inspector.
I missed that.
Yes, based upon other comparable salaries that we looked at, we had this discussion, and we have no opposition with the amount we recommended. We had this discussion with Darlene. We're in agreement on that. We believe that's a fair wage for the individual who's presently working as our part-time inspector right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Let's catch on. I missed that. It's dark in here. The next division is, Conservation Commission. The town manager recommends a budget of $14,092, which is $544 over prior year. This is primarily admin support for Conservation Commission. You know what they do, right? So, Darlene,
Oh, sure. So
give us just a sentence or two would be great.
for conservation, so it is a slight increase, and that is to meet the needs for the admin that is handling the requirements for conservation. So that position will handle all the meeting postings. They prepare the orders. They take the minutes. They actually attend those meetings. And this is per the union contract.
Okay. Any questions?
Nope.
All right, the final division within this budget is the animal control, called the Animal Control Office. The town manager recommends a budget of $56,267. This is an increase of about $7,400 from prior year. And just brief on the animal control for us.
Sure. So for the animal control budget, we have increased the coverage for the animal control officer as well as the salary. The position is basically on call 24 hours a day, so 24/7. And our animal control officer, we're very fortunate. She does a great job, but she's always on the ready. Basically, when the police call, she has to respond. So we have looked at some options for getting coverage for this position. And in meeting with Julie and Ed, we came up with what we feel is something that will bring relief to the position and helping out with weekends and some evening and vacations. So this person actually, it was difficult for them to take a vacation just because we didn't really have any backup or redundancy to the position. So we have proposed a coverage line with an increase of $1,200 from the last fiscal budget, and we're confident that this is going to bring some relief to the position.
Good. Well, that's good. I noticed we've got the vaccinations line, which is obviously an expense. My question is the offset to that. Does that cover its expense in terms of, I know we do charge for vaccinations back a long time ago when I
As
used
a matter of fact, you're going to see a warrant article that proposes the establishment of a revolving account for these types of expenses that hopefully will be, we hope to be revenue neutral, but we expect from time to time, there have to be a subsidy for those individuals who do not claim the dog or the animal, and there's something that we're obligated to do. So we are addressing that. Certainly, we, in the past, have come before you for transfers to meet those obligations because there wasn't money within the budget, and quite honestly, would have to come out of a line item within their budget, whether it be for kennel maintenance or whatever. So those line items did suffer in the past as a result of meeting these other obligations. So we need to address that up front. Hopefully, going to get that passed at the annual town meeting. That will help offset some of those costs.
Okay. Any other questions on this division? Okay. So the total budget for the development and Department of Inspectional Services, this is a total budget now, if I'm reading correctly. Town manager recommends $529,519, and this represents a $93,836 increase over the original fiscal 17 appropriation.
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So voted. Darlene, thanks for your time. Nice to see you tonight.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, our next department is Department of Public Works. Bill, I don't think has been home for a few days. Thanks for the effort on the roads. That was a tough storm.
Thank you.
It's a lousy way to end the year, and let's hope we're ending the year, right?
Let's hope it's an end.
Yeah, Bill, you want to come on up here? Just that sounds.
He's been up for the past X amount of hours. So.
Absolutely. Well, I see Kenny falling asleep out there, so I get that. You know.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members
Drove by
of...
my house a few times, and he looked good then. Something about a uniform. I don't know what it is. Okay.
Good evening.
Bill, good to see you tonight. Once again, thanks again for everyone's effort on the roads.
Thank you.
That was quite a storm. Obviously, several divisions within the DPW. I think all of your divisions fall within the same tab, unlike Darlene, so we'll go through those one at a time, unless you have a couple of comments, overview of what's going on.
Sure.
And where are you going with the department?
I can give you an overview or a comment on each one as we go, if you'd like.
Yeah, let's do it as we go, though. Thank you. That's probably more efficient anyways. The first division is engineer. Town manager recommends a budget of $670,173. This is about a a not quite $6,000 increase over prior year. The biggest piece of this budget, outside of the salary for town engineer and the civil engineer, is there's $525,000 in road reconstruction within this, which is, I'll say, flat funded versus last year.
Sure, correct. So the engineering division, one of the main functions that we perform is each year we develop our Chapter 90 roadway program, where many towns will hire out consultants to perform that work. We do that in-house. Every year we evaluate each roadway in town, and we have a database, and people will from time to time come to our office, and we can at least provide them with information where their roadway ranks in terms of all the other roads in town. So that's one of our major assignments that we have, in addition to overseeing that construction. Last year we had a $3.4 million contract, and I think we actually added to that towards the end of the year another $800,000, so we're well over $4 million. So the great thing is the town provides a lot of additional funds to this department to do additional work, but on the flip side of that also creates some additional work that we perform and oversee, which we're happy to do, and we're very thankful that we do get the additional funding. And so the engineering department, that's, we're going to continue with those efforts and hope that the funding remains in place, because I think people have seen a difference in the improvements to the roadways. So we're thankful for it and hope to continue with that effort.
Good, okay. I'll open this up to any questions. And once again, we'll be looking at CIP as it relates to the DPW also. Any questions? None? Okay. The next division is stormwater. Town manager recommends a division budget of $297,598, and that's just about a $3,000 increase over prior year. The biggest component of this is the replacement of pipes and catch basins. I actually had a couple of emails with the CFO regarding that account this morning, and I got a pretty good education on use and carryover use and that kind of stuff on it. So I don't have any questions on that number. We didn't quite reach that number in terms of annual spending on it, but I think that's part of some ongoing projects, correct, if I understood?
Yeah, as I indicated to the chair earlier today, even though the expense is shy of what we are requesting, I can tell you we do carry over the balance, because the projects continue, they start in the spring and they carry through the summer. We recognize that as a true liability, even though it occurs after June 30th, we're contractually obligated to that. So a lot of this work is done early July, we carry over the money. I can tell you all of that money is spent annually.
And my reason for asking was looking to free up some more money for the snow and ice, so it was all going to stay under your umbrella anyway. So
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And I can add the stormwater. This is a budget, or a component of the budget that we added several years ago as a result of a study that was done by our consultant. It goes back to when I first started here, so I think that they were studying this 9-10 years ago.
Oh, yeah, close.
And a big part of that was some of the changes that were coming down the road with the National Pollution Discharge Elimination Systems permit, which is a permit through the EPA. And the next phase of that permit is just kicking in July. It's been around for many, many years, but they've finally come up with the permit requirements that we're going to have to fulfill. And there's a lot of meetings that are ongoing discussing this, and we belong to a coalition that Joanna Paquin, the civil engineer at DPW, attends on a regular basis. So there's going to be a lot more compliance-related issues that the town is going to have to address. Just, one of the things that we'll be doing is wet weather and dry weather monitoring of drainage outfalls. So what we're going to have to do is go to where our drainage structures discharge, and in the wet weather take samples and then test them to see if there's anything in that water that shouldn't be there, and then try to trace where it's coming from. Then also dry weather sampling. Ideally there shouldn't be anything coming out in the dry weather, but there is. Then sometimes it might be an illicit discharge, somebody draining their wash machine to the drainage system. So these are the types of things that moving forward they want us to try to look at, and there's probably additional requirements beyond that. Every year, we file a permit with them. Joanna does that in-house. Again, previously, we had subbed out to a consultant to do that work. So where I was going with this is I think this area is something where replace pipes and catch basins, if anything, would potentially go towards maybe doing additional work beyond that, but within stormwater. So because there are more items that are going to be required in the near future to comply with this new permit.
Okay. Any other questions on this, Ian?
Questions, how many ponds are we de-weeding? And do we do it annually or?
Yes, every year we do the aquatic weed control, and it's Leesville Pond, Eddy Pond, Pondville Pond, and I believe that's it. The three ponds.
That's it.
Okay. And we set up a golf course to take care of that pond, right?
And this year, we're going to try to include the golf course pond. We had a lot of algae and weeds there last year, but
Well,
we did get conservation approval, but by the time we had the approvals in place, I think the algae was dying off. It was towards the end of the year, but I think that's something we're going to include going forward.
Wasn't any water left in there. I couldn't
There's
survive.
snow right now, nice.
All right, so let's move on to the next division. This would be highway, and Kenny's here on that. Good to see you, Kenny. You awake over there? All right. A lot of driving around you yesterday. Let's see. The highway total, town manager recommends $1,182,555. That's an increase of $154,556 over the original fiscal 17 budget. Obviously, a heck of a lot of lines here. I've got a few questions, but if you want to give us an overview of highway and what we've been accomplishing.
Sure, highway, as you mentioned, the highway superintendent, Kenny Fairbanks, is here tonight, so any specific questions I can maybe defer to Kenny, but I'll be happy to try to answer them for you.
One comment before Bill gets into the details. 80,500 of that 154 is applicable to snow and ice. Remember early on we said we increased snow and ice?
Yeah.
To help meet our year-to-year deficit, so we wouldn't have to rely on our reserve account to bail us out every year. Certainly, we have a significant one this year. I think before this snowstorm, we were at about 206,000. My guess is we're probably someplace in the vicinity of maybe 250 now.
Correct. I can tell you the storm, yesterday's storm, just in wages for DPW, and keep in mind 8 hours of the storm was during straight time, but overtime and then private contractors, we're probably looking at somewhere between $20,000 and $25,000 in just wages and equipment rental for private contractors. And then from the salt, I estimated probably about another $20,000 in salt. So I think you're right.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty significant number. Certainly, I think we hit, we're trying to mitigate that as best we can with the resources we have in place now. But it's becoming more apparent now that we may have to raise a portion of that on next year's tax recap sheet.
Okay. And we'll save some of that discussion more for another day anyways on that. Bill, anything else on this? For the
In addition, in this budget, we have one new employee under the wages full-time. This is something that we've had on the radar, I think, for a long time, that we've been looking to have funded. So we're very, very happy to see that the position included in this year's budget, and hope that gets support. So we're thrilled to have that person. In addition to working for the highway department, we expect this person to also work in the fleet division. We find that we are typically short-handed to get a lot of the work done, and what we will do is have some of the highway employees or sewer employees from time to time work within that division to try to basically catch up on the repairs that are needed. So this person will not only be out on the road, but probably spend a lot of time in the garage as well doing fleet maintenance repairs and fixing equipment. Beyond that, a lot of the items I think are level funded, other than when you get to snow and ice.
Okay. Follow-up questions, like I said, I've got a couple. Anything Ed? No? Good. Just a couple, and they're close to the nitpicky side. Thank you, Bill Westland, for the training. Love the guy. The fuel line, Ed, how are we running year to date? And I'm just thinking that number, just from the cost, is that number a little high?
That's fuel, that's heating, that's for the building.
Yeah.
Let me just take a quick
There's just a couple of these that, while you're looking at that, protective clothing, Bill, that's flat funded, and you've got someone else coming on. You comfortable with that number?
Protective clothing, we've kind of taken a different approach. When we renegotiated the contracts in the past, we were leasing uniforms, and we're finding that it would be more cost effective to provide a dollar value to each employee. I think it's $800 a year. In the past, it was $350 per year for boots and different equipment. So we've increased it per the contract last year, I believe, to $800 for each employee, and now any items they purchase, they would be responsible for, so that we wouldn't have to pay a rental fee, and then if clothing is lost, then town pays for that, and a little more control for the employees on what their needs are too. So it's kind of worked out, I think, as a win-win for that item.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, on the fuel, year-to-date, out of a $14,000 appropriation, we expended $4,931. It's approximately 35% of the 14, so we're in good shape.
Good.
Mr. Chairman, I do have
Yep. Kevin?
just a couple brief questions. A couple high-profile tragedies relative to trees falling in the last couple weeks. What does DPW do in terms of their responsibilities? Sometimes have tree wardens. What does Auburn do as far as inspecting trees?
Sure. And Kenny Fairbanks happens to also play that role as tree warden. And I think Kenny will get involved if there's a call regarding a dead tree, myself or Joanna. A lot of times it's a question of not necessarily whether the tree is dead. Quite often when someone calls, I'd say the majority of the time it is dead. It's a matter of who owns the tree. So we'll get involved to look at basically a property line issue and see whether or not, if the tree is 15, 20 feet off the edge of the road, typically it's not our tree. If it's 2 feet off the edge of the road, it probably is, but then there's that gray area. I'd like to think we've been very responsive to anyone's concerns. We've taken down a lot of trees over the past 4 or 5 years. I can tell you that if the $12,000 isn't sufficient to take the trees down, we'll look at the engineer's roadway account if we have to, as part of one of our roadway projects, or being within a roadway. We don't want to leave a dead tree in place. And so Kenny is also very proactive. Kenny Fairbanks in contacting National Grid. He actually has a very good connection there that works well with him. So if there's a tree that is dead adjacent to any power lines, we've been very successful in contacting the grid and having them remove the tree for us as well. So we've tried to make sure that when people contact us, that we get right out and look at it, and if there's a dead tree, we remove it.
Okay, and just yard waste removal? Is that the waste that's dumped at the highway?
Yeah, the yard waste removal, I think we have 8,000, but we also have a revolving account. Typically, that cost is about $16,000 to $18,000. I can tell you this year what we're finding, and I haven't spoke to the CFO yet about this, but this year we're finding much higher quotes to remove the yard waste. I was told that there's been some changes in the market where the wood chips are no longer needed as much as they have been in the past. I think there was some mills that went out of business up in Maine. I don't know the specifics, but because of that, I'm getting higher numbers to remove that pile. So we're looking to potentially try to come up with other ways to creatively remove the pile without increasing the cost. We're making phone calls to different companies that may have an interest in the material. So we're hoping that we will be able to keep that number still in that same range of the 16,000 to 18,000. We have a balance, I think, in a revolving account somewhere between 12,000 to 14,000. And we also receive $6,000 from Allied Waste annually as an agreement for them to dump the leaf collection on site. So between their $6,000 And then this 8,000, that's 14 of what the typical cost of 16 to 18,000 is. And then the annual fee that someone pays for a new license or permit sticker will cover the additional cost of the disposal and then the employee costs as well.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'll certainly attest to the tree removal. I had a situation with 3 trees right with National Grid, and guys was very responsive. Then again, I shut down Elkland Street. Someone noticed that. I
Yes.
just, where that goes.
We typically notice when the trees cross the road, so.
Yeah, and
During a snowstorm, we'll push it out with a loader and come back later, but, yeah.
I do appreciate the quick response time. It was made for a tough Friday morning for a lot of people. My one other question is actually the last line, the landfill water / gas monitor. All of a sudden, we've got a nearly $22,000 line on them. Is that a one-time?
No, this is.
Let me ask again, is that a one-time?
No, unfortunately, this is something we've been doing annually, but what was happening in the past is it was going on as a town meeting warrant article. So we found that when we've made some phone calls to DEP, this isn't going away anytime soon. So we felt that probably the best way to handle this is because it's an annual reoccurring cost, let's put it in the budget because it's not going away.
Okay. And this is truly regarding, is this the capped landfill?
It's the capped landfill,
Okay.
yes, and it's. We've increased the maintenance the past 5-6 years. So when we first took over, there were trees growing, the grass wasn't getting mowed, so we're there on an annual basis, at least once a year. We can try to go up there more often if we have time to mow the grass on the landfill, because we have to obviously maintain that. There is water and gas testing that's done on an annual, either quarterly. I believe the gas is quarterly and water is twice a year, but that's done every year. And then there's a report generated, and that's forwarded to DEP by our consultant. So,
Okay. Related and unrelated, the DEP monitoring fee, which I believe was related to Bilbrey Street.
Correct.
Is that complete now, or until they come back and test that again?
We're currently under agreement to close that out. We have a contract with Kleinfelter. It's probably going to take upwards of
a couple of years.
But we're on track to close that out. So hopefully that's something that hopefully will evaporate in the very near future. Although we are currently under discussions right now with the Mass 10 site, and there are some monitoring issues there as well that we're currently addressing. So that may transition over to that site if in fact that's a long-term type monitoring situation.
Okay. Any other questions on highway? I think that covered everything I had. Outside of, I still would love to find another chunk of money for snow and ice.
As would we.
I was hoping we'd find some FEMA money yesterday, but unfortunately, the storm never ramped up to that level. So.
The blizzard call for Worcester fell, what, a couple of minutes short?
Well, they did call it a blizzard initially, then they pulled it back and said, not really a
I
blizzard.
saw that. I mean, we had Jim Cantori reporting
Right in
from Auburn
town.
here. We can't get FEMA money for that?
Right.
You know.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could emphasize once again, this is a priority of town administration as well as the DPW director, Mr. Coyle, to continue to address this in the near future as well as long-term. 381 is not where we want to be. We would like to be somewhere in the vicinity of 475. Even if we have 475 this year, we would still be looking at a, $200,000 deficit. So we're trying to get closer to that 3-year average. I know this year is higher than in prior years, given the number of storms and the duration of storms and the number of times that the crews had to go out. But certainly, we're not opposed to increasing that. That's something we would like to have you keep that in mind, and maybe that's something we revisit at the fall town meeting. We just don't want to earmark any funds right now without at least waiting for a second set of numbers from the House, then a set of numbers from the Senate. It's something that we can revisit, I think, once those numbers solidify.
Okay, and I'll just state, and this is not for debate at this point in time, when we get around to discussing free cash policy, it still seems to me that our snow and ice deficit, even though it's in an operating account, still could be a very good use for money we've already raised if we have quote-unquote surplus free cash. So as we discuss that, which will hopefully be next month anyways, and it's, you know, it's not important to get that done within our budget process, that we can take a look at that. I am not in favor of relying on the ability to raise through next year's tax levy for snowstorm removal expenses that happened this past year, which I know the CFO and I don't necessarily agree upon, but if that's the worst of our disagreements, we can live with each other. So, anyways, I'll get off my soapbox now. Our next division is facility management. Amount requested by town manager, $71,880. That's compared to an original budget in fiscal 17 of $67,000. Bill, this was my question for you again before we met tonight. Facilities management and the fleet maintenance, can you just remind me or us what one does versus the other?
Facility management basically maintains all of the town buildings, with the exception of the school buildings, although we do try to help provide some services for them as well from time to time. So any of the revisions that you see, the painting of the selectmen's room, any of the construction projects, the rebuilding of the salt shed, reconstruction, the addition to the sewer building, there was a garage added on, the remodeling of the fire station, kitchen, the siding, the new windows at the police station. The press blocks, thank you. I mean, there's the work at the golf course, clubhouse. There's been a tremendous amount of work that the facilities division has done over the years, and you know, they've done a great job. And so that's that end of it. So it's maintenance of the existing buildings, but also maintaining and improvements as well. In addition, then fleet maintenance is that, exactly that, fleet. So all rolling stock within the town,
Okay.
DPW, highway, park, cemetery, police, fire, with the exception of some of the specialized equipment by the fire apparatus. We maintain all of that equipment as well. And that is also realized a savings of about $60,000 a year since the implementation of that division.
Plus more responsive.
Yes, and we like to think better maintenance.
Absolutely. Any questions on the facility management division? Okay, we'll move on to fleet maintenance. As Bill had described, the town manager has recommended a budget of $186,197, and that's an increase of about $15,500 over the fiscal 17 appropriation. My only question on this, Bill, or Ed actually on this, is what's the current run rate on the expense for the motor vehicle repairs?
So I think I'm going to turn to Jeff, because he oversees this on a day-to-day basis. I think our annual expense is running at a level higher than 150. Certainly, we assume some additional vehicles.
I think of the additional cost of the repairs too, Jeff, with parts.
We have a requested increase of $15,000 to $165,000 in this line item. Hi, Jeff. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening. Yes, the increase, we've taken on a few more vehicles, additional vehicles as well, but the price of parts and some of the outside repairs that we're just not equipped to take care of, those prices have definitely gone up. As far as the maintenance, the in-house, the guys are busy every day. You can see the condition of the vehicles every time you see a town vehicle that's been in our garage at least once per week sometimes. But the fire apparatus, the comfort level of the guys, as well as the chief, is up there because of the maintenance and whatnot that's being performed. But as far as the increase, the snowstorms, the snow damage to the vehicles has taken its toll. We're probably running at about 78% of our total budget right now. We do a lot in the spring in preparation for the inspection, the DOT inspections. So we go through the trucks, the vehicles, from top to bottom, one end to the other, make sure everything's in compliance. And then once the inspection's done, once in a while, the inspector will find a couple things that need to be repaired. But other than that, that's the reason for the additional.
Okay.
I think it's important to note that we're truly doing preventive maintenance on our vehicles and not repairs by crisis. So in the long run, that saves a lot of money because we're addressing the maintenance needs before something, bad happens to the vehicle.
If I can add to that, the preventive maintenance that's being performed now, the first year that we had, that we were working as fleet, we ended up putting a brand new motor in one of the fire trucks that was only 3 years old because maintenance wasn't being performed. So the motor basically ate itself from the inside out because simple fluid changes weren't being performed. So, keeping an eye on things like that and documenting all of this will definitely give us longevity in the vehicles.
Through the chair, just a quick question. And this kind of goes to the CIP and fleet and why we purchase vehicles on a regular basis. Can you just briefly touch upon, obviously newer vehicles mean less major repairs so that, you're not putting transmissions in vehicles that are, 5 years and less. However, is there a point that there are vehicles within town that you just basically, make a cost determination that it's not worth to continue servicing?
What we do is we within town, we do a lot of repurposing of vehicles from one department to another. And with that being said, we get to a certain point where, it's like your own vehicle. Once you constant repairs, dumping money after, good money after bad into vehicles, it's time to pull it off the road. And basically, if it's not real major repairs, it gets to the point where the vehicles don't pass, they won't pass the DOT inspections anymore. So then we have to sideline it, and what we usually do is we either auction it off or we send the vehicles out to scrap.
But so there is definitely a cost savings. I mean, when you look and you see the town's fleet is in good shape and
Absolutely.
There is a savings on your end in terms of maintenance costs.
So what we try to do is reach the normal longevity of a vehicle. Some of the pickups and the one-ton vehicles, we hope to get 10 years out of those, whereas without maintenance, you're not going to get that.
We actually have a 20-year plan for our vehicles through DPW. I can tell you years ago, we made some major investment in our fleet over the past, since Bill has been here, and got it up to a point where, I think a lot of our fleet is newer, much newer than it was years ago. I think a lot of our vehicles were being, held together by duct tape and baling wire. That's not the case anymore. So yes, that does translate into savings in the long run, but we got to get our fleet up to a standard that allows us to, I think, reduce our future capital needs once we get to a point. We're not quite there yet, but we're working on a plan that rotates this equipment.
Right, we had gone through and looked at, 10 years. I mean, when we first created the DPW, we went through all the equipment and looked at the age of all of our trucks, and I think the oldest one we had back then was 1986.
I was going to say Reagan administration.
Yeah, it was pretty old.
That's-
It was, actually, I take that back, 1983 was the oldest one, because I remember saying at the meeting that I was still in high school then. In any case, we look to Jeff's point, any of the smaller trucks, the one-ton pickups, 10-year rotation. But what we also look at is, once we get to that 10-year mark, is what is the condition of that truck? Is it something worth keeping and then using basically as a beater truck? So that it ultimately ends up in the highway department on some of the jobs that may do more damage to, we don't want to use one of the newer trucks. So if you're loading in an area where you can't use a large truck, there's boulders and whatnot, then we'll send that truck. So to try to preserve the newer trucks. The larger trucks, the 6-wheel dumps that you see, are probably closer to a 15 tire year, 15 to 7-year rotation. We'd like to be even earlier than that, but they're very expensive, about $200,000 a piece. But we've made a lot of progress on that. And then one of the things that we're also doing is any of the new trucks, the 6-wheel dumps, the large ones, they're combined bodies for dump and salt. So in the past, the new trucks, most of them were being used just for snow and ice only. So we have, I think, three left in that fleet. And I think we have four or five of the newer body combined. The benefit of that is we can obviously use them year round and put more miles. So the older trucks we have one is 2004 and then 2007. 2004 probably has less than 10,000 miles on it. That truck's going to rot out before you have the miles and the hours on it that you should be getting out of that vehicle. So by moving towards a combined body as a dump body and using for snow and ice for salt, we can use it continuously and hopefully get more use out of that vehicle than we would if we were trying to use it just for snow and ice only. So again, the larger trucks, probably 15 to 7, ideally get to 15-year, and the smaller trucks, 10-year rotation.
And you'll see we get to the CIP, we got a few trucks, 2 or 3 coming off next year, it looked like, and I thought that was just kind of interesting that it looks like a orderly taking off, or paying for new trucks.
Right, we're trying to, between the trucks, the sidewalk tractors, the sweepers, the loaders, we try to go through, we have a 40-year window, 20 years past, 20 years forward, and we're trying to rotate them out and see where are we in that rotation, as the CFO mentioned. So that's our 20-year plan.
Okay, thank you.
All set. Okay, any other questions on the fleet maintenance? Great, Jeff, thank you. Appreciate the color on that too. The next division is the Parks Division. Now, is that Wayne, is that falling under you, or does Kenny still have that? I'm trying to keep up with you guys. I know you've both been repurposed to Priuses now, so it looks a little odd driving around town, but it works, but it doesn't. So. The Parks Division, the town manager requests a budget of $224,168. This is just a small increase, less than $2,000 over fiscal 17. So, Bill, any highlights on this?
Sure. As you mentioned, Wayne Bloomquist is here this evening for any specific questions relative to parks, and he's a parks and cemetery superintendent, and recreation also falls under Wayne as well. The Parks Department, one of the things that we are doing in the past 8 months that we weren't doing previously is we're currently meeting with the membership of all the leagues. So soccer, baseball, softball, lacrosse, anybody I'm forgetting? Papuana. To identify some of the areas in the condition of our fields that may or could use improvements, and to work with them in identifying what fields should we improve. And one of the things we're looking at is trying to rest a field each year. Last year, we identified the inside of the track at Lemansky. Gets a lot of use, primarily, I think, for soccer. So what we looked at was we repaired the irrigation system for that field. So that's now up and running again. We also regraded, loamed and seeded that field. We rested the field last fall. We'll rest it again this spring, try to give it 2 growing seasons, and hopefully use that in the fall. But we'll assess it and look at the vegetation at the time. But these are a direct outcome of the meetings that we're having with these representatives of the leagues. We've also repaired the irrigation at the intermediate school, identifying that basically, if you don't have grass, water rather, irrigation, you're really not going to have a good field. So we repaired that irrigation system as well. And anything else that we do Upper Lemansky softball field? Any repairs in the irrigation? Just some repairs. Okay. So again, we're trying to move forward on additional repairs, and we address any of their concerns that they have as well. So that's one of the big things. And then also maintenance of the South Hole Road property. That's new. newly added to their responsibility, so twice a year, we mow the entire, I don't remember how many acres, 40 or 50 acres of grass, so we're maintaining that as well to keep the vegetation to a point where you can at least still access the field. So, I'll be happy to answer any other questions.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Southold's been added on in the last, say, year or so?
I think we've been 2 years now that
Been
we've
2
maintained
years?
it. Yeah.
Got another 20 years to pay that extra million off? Never mind. I didn't say
8
that.
years.
8 years.
In your
Good,
purpose.
okay. Between that and the landfill, which we're going to be paying more attention to, we've got a fairly flat budget here. Does that make sense?
We've been able to keep up with it. The landfill, well, it's DPW, so if it's highway division employees that we can send there, we'll send the highway department to pull the brush hog and maintain it. So it really depends on, who is strained the most and where we can shuffle people around.
Okay, once again, the advantage of having a DPW versus strict divisions going on.
Right.
Any other questions on the parks? And thanks for keeping the budget, consistent. Okay, we've got a few more budgets here. The next one is Packagug Golf Course. Town manager recommends a budget of $317,304 as compared to $299,000 in fiscal 17. I know we have an enterprise fund set up for this, so could you give us just a brief on how the course did? Obviously, the weather helped out quite a bit.
I mean, we were very happy with the entire year, how things went. We track annually what we brought in for revenues, and it was different from the fiscal year, but because it was our first year, we looked at from day one with season passes or season tickets. What we found is that by the end of the year, we were running about $385,000 for the year. And I know at town meeting, we had estimated that at $299,000 or $300,000 is what our projected budget was. And for the first 5 years, our hopes were that at a minimum, we would break even at $300,000. So we were thrilled with the outcome of the first year. Granted, the weather was cooperated tremendously with us as well. So last year we opened on March 9th, and obviously this year that didn't happen. But it did, yeah.
Snowball fights and toboggan greens fees.
But we also closed the first 2 weeks in April because of snow. So we did lose some time in April last year as well. So, obviously with this snow, it's going to be at least a couple weeks before, it depends on the weather, obviously, before we're going to be opening. But once the weather breaks, we'll open as quickly as we can. We were very fortunate with the staff that we hired. We hired a superintendent and assistant superintendent that have worked out tremendously. The clubhouse staff couldn't be any better, more professional, more friendly. Kristen Pappas is managing the clubhouse. We've had nothing but positive comments from all the people who've been golfing there, and we've made a tremendous amount of improvements to the course, to drainage improvements, removing dead trees, renovation to the clubhouse, and then any other items that we can identify to improve the course, and we're going to continue with that next year as well. So we're very happy with how things are going. One of the large items is the equipment. We have a lease purchase for the golf course equipment, so for the golf carts and also all the maintenance equipment. Now, we expect the maintenance equipment will last beyond the 5 years, and hopefully the golf carts will as well, but we recognize that as time goes on, they may get some abuse to them, may need to replace them, but that number should decrease, I think, pretty significantly after year 5. So we should recognize the savings going forward there as well.
Good. I'll open this up to any questions. Yeah.
Question, how is it's being irrigated? Where's the water coming from? I don't see a cost here.
The irrigation comes from the pond. We have 2 wells. That was one of the initial improvements we made last year. One of the wells was not working. We had to repair that well. We replaced the entire pump house, all new equipment inside the pump house, new pumps. So, but it's all from the irrigation pond. And even as much as we had a drought last year, we never ran out of water. But we water the tees and greens, it's not the entire golf course. So we're fortunate that we didn't run out of water.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Valerie?
Just the 2 new accounts for merchandise and food concessions, do you expect?
Sure. No, good question. I think as we're moving forward, we're recognizing that there were different additional line items needed based on the operations of the golf course. So this is just more to better reflect what's being purchased and sold through the clubhouse. So we have clothing, Packagug golf courts, shirts and sweatshirts that we're selling. So it was probably more appropriate to have a separate line item for that. And then banking charges, which turned out to be fairly significant charge. We felt as though that should also be tracked separately.
I think as we get a little deeper into this, I mean, we certainly only operate in year 1. We haven't had a full year yet, so there was an expectation that we would tweak this budget to reflect some additional costs that maybe we didn't anticipate. Above and beyond the 317, we also charge to the enterprise account about $29,000 of indirect costs, which make up the benefits for the employees who work up there, i.e. health insurance, Medicare, and other costs that are used to support the golf course. That being admin costs on the town side for processing of collections and fees and things of that nature. So even with that, we do anticipate turning a profit once again in year 2, provided that we don't get a snowstorm in April, May. That is going to result in some a long-term delayed opening. So, but as Bill had indicated, year 1 very positive with the results. We're very pleased. We hope to continue that trend in future years as well.
And I believe, Ed, we finished about 48,000 with retained earnings in FY17.
So we currently have certified by the Department of Revenue about $48,000-$49,000 in year 1 of net profit.
And that was after those, I'll say, soft costs, indirect costs were added?
Year 1, because when we created this account and had our recap established, we didn't even hire our help yet. So year 1, there were no indirect costs because we didn't know what they were. And certainly it was only for a 3-month period. But even with the indirect costs now, provided that our revenue is similar to what we experienced in year 1, we should turn a very similar profit in year 2. But that remains to be seen.
So then the true budget is something closer to 340?
Correct.
Okay, than what we're seeing now, so.
I thought the more the golf course was generating, I thought it was more indirect costs were going to be charged for us.
We're going to have to cap that, There's,
That's something we
that's a
look,
fall
that's
town
something we
meeting
look at every
negotiation.
year.
That's a good point.
Yeah, Jeff is very familiar with that, and I'm sure.
That's certainly a good point. Any other questions?
Just a quick
Kevin?
question,
Yeah.
Obviously the golf course not running full time. I know we discussed this last year. Those employees, are they utilized elsewhere within?
Excellent point. Actually, the 2 golf course employees, full-time employees, have been working the bulk of the winter here painting. So we've had 1 facilities employee overseeing the project, and we've had 2 golf course employees working painting the town hall interior. And we probably have half the inside of the building done this winter, so most likely next winter we would continue on, and both those employees would continue working within facilities.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
In the plow, yeah.
Any other questions on the golf course? Okay, the next division is recreation. The town manager recommends a recreation budget of $50,495. That is a an increase of about $2,500 over fiscal 17. Bill, any quick comments on recreation?
Probably the biggest thing to mention on this is the additional duties that Kristen has taken on with the golf course operations. And so she is located at the clubhouse during the season. I can say that when times get extremely busy for her, there may be a period where we'll have one of the part-time employees cover the hours that she would normally cover. She was normally covering, I think it was 9 to 2. And typically does, but to offset occasionally as the summer camp program kicks off, she gets extremely busy, so we may offset some of her time and allow her to keep working on her duties that she had prior to taking over the management of the clubhouse. But that's probably the biggest change that we've had in recreation. Kristen still holds all of her programs that she has in the past and does an excellent job with that. We've also carved out a portion of her salary through Golf Course Enterprise as well to reflect the fact that she's now doing some work at the golf course.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, the next division is cemetery, which also falls under Wayne. Town manager recommends a budget of $183,876. This represents a $7,749 increase over fiscal 2017. Bill, any comments on that?
The one thing that the cemetery department has done is the expansion on the back property, back left side. If you enter the cemetery, the 2 full-time cemetery employees graded that area for a future expansion because it's filling up. I believe we have, with the expansion, probably 20 years, Wayne. So certainly Wayne will probably be retired in 20 years, and it should be fine too.
Don't connect those dots, come on.
And I will probably be retired by then as well. So we're very happy that they were able to do that because there was some concern of what the future expansion was going to look like, and they spent several weeks of their time grading and loaming and seeding to establish that area. So I think I'm going to say it's approximately 3/4 of an acre. Could be a little more, a little less, but it was a pretty significant area.
Yeah, okay. Any questions?
Just a quick, since you said that's a 20-year approximate to fill, do we have a master plan for cemetery operations? Or are we looking at more space or?
Well, there are other areas in town.
I hope to make it beyond the 20-year.
Yeah, I won't identify what I think
Speak
would
for
be.
yourself.
If you're looking for early
Got a second
purchasing.
level.
Yeah.
Actually, mine would be down below. It's going to be.
Look for good gravel. That's nice. That's the engine. That's the engine. That's right. That's right. Right. For future expansion, half price. We've discussed it, I think, with the administration, some ideas, but I think right now it's premature. I mean, there's certainly tracts of land out there that would be suitable for a cemetery, and so I do think the town owns enough parcels out there. I don't think this area is going to accommodate much more than the 20 years. We'd have to look at that. Maybe the area to the back right, Wayne?
I think it'd be just about
20, 25 years. So, but again, there's other areas in town. If the town chose to continue with having their own cemetery, that they could look to expand on.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't want to get anyone nervous and saying we've looked at this property for a cemetery. So,
No, okay, thank you.
Mallory?
Forgive me if you went over this before, but for uniforms, are all divisions getting a flat allowance for clothing?
it's all, we have 2 unions at DPW. We have the Teamsters Union for the sewer department employees, and then Local 170, Jeff? Local 170 for the highway department. In the negotiations for the highway department, we renegotiated that item. I don't believe the sewer department, they still have a contract with the, they don't have one. Okay. They didn't have it. Okay, so There's currently no private company maintaining uniforms anymore, but that contract was a renegotiating item with the local 170, which was the Mass Laborers Union, thank you, which is Highway, Parks, and Cemetery. Those three divisions are in the same union.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right, so let's move on. I think this is our last division, which is sewer. Jeff Mitchell's here. Jeff, good to see you. Thank you for coming. And the town manager recommends a sewer budget of $1,868,852. And the fiscal 17 appropriation was, that's about what, 50 grand higher? 1,929,000. It's lower. Prior year was lower, higher, right? So that's a reduction from prior year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Current year is
The
high.
CFO and I can agree that the prior year was higher, so this is a reduced budget. $1,929,966. So we've got a reduction. That's primarily in the Upper Blackstone assessment and in contingency. I'll go right to Jeff on this in terms of explaining, as he does eloquently every year and concisely every year, what goes on with that.
Clean report for a dirty business. You are correct as far as the assessment goes. The work that we performed the last 5 or 6 years through I&I, or infiltration and inflow removal, has allowed our total flow to the treatment, for treatment, to be reduced significantly. We're seeing larger deductions now because of the way the treatment plant formulates their assessment. They do it over a 3-year average. So we've seen a reduction in our flow to the plant in the last 3 to 4 years, but obviously we're not seeing it every year because, we had higher years prior to, so the higher years dropped off. So this is the first full 3-year term, if you will, that our assessment has been based on 3 lower flow years. So that's where we're seeing the reduction.
Okay. I assume the contingency falls in some sort of ratio to that?
Yes and no. Most of the time that's for wages or unforeseen within other lines within the budget. So whereas the contingency is lower, but yet the wage calculations were covered up in the wage section at the time.
Must have put it there for the wages.
Yeah. Okay.
And there is a slight increase as far as the uniforms go. We're trying to get them, our employees, up to the same point as the other contract, which I'm sure that they'll be trying to negotiate that into their contract next time around. So hopefully we'll be ready for it.
And through the chair, if I could, Jeff,
Absolutely.
Is there an update on the pump station projects that you can provide?
Oh, last year we appropriated a little over $1 million as far as pump station upgrades. That's gone out to bid. The bid has been awarded. We're in the process now of, our engineers are in the process of reviewing shop drawings and whatnot. So I expect to be starting construction within the next probably 2 months at maximum.
And how's that expense going to be covered? Is that bonded out, or is that going to be
Borrowed.
carried?
It's borrowed.
All right. So because this is an enterprise fund, will the interest on that fall into this particular budget, or will that still fall under?
No, the interest is under 752. I think you already took a vote on that.
This is where this is an
There's a
enterprise.
charge back through the indirect costs,
Okay.
through the enterprise account.
Like I said, I'll swap indirects any day of the week.
When do you expect that to start hitting, I'll call it the town, in terms of expense, that project? 2 years?
Oh, as far as when we actually start payment on that?
Has it been
We
longer
already borrowed
already?
the funds, so I think.
Yeah, it's this.
Oh, we
this-
did borrow
this
the
fiscal
funds.
year, yeah.
Yeah, just to put this into perspective in terms of indirect costs to the package, I think Jeff's total indirect's about 450,000. Golf course is 29,000, so that's why Jeff is making the comment.
Yeah, they got a little ways to go.
It's a bargain.
But a lot of that is borrowing as well, for projects and whatnot.
Well, they're both equally very important divisions as far as I'm concerned.
One more fun
One's
than
less seen
the
than
other.
the other.
One should be the face of the town, the other another
Well said.
end portion. Yeah.
Leave it at that.
Any other questions on the sewer division?
Yeah, question.
All right, yeah?
Yeah, just a question. I'm looking at the electricity line. I think I recall transferring money into that or moving things. Will that be a sufficient amount?
That is a very good question. We started the year off very well as far as the credits. Actually, I just had this conversation with Joanne this morning. We're not sure whether this will suffice. It's going to be close, but with the net metering credits and whatnot that we're getting has helped tremendously as far as maintaining the electric costs. We might be a few thousand short, but we haven't had a full year under our belt yet as far as the amount of credits that we're getting. So I may look to make an adjustment maybe next fall, at the fall town meeting or.
Okay.
Just year-to-date, we're running at about 57%, and we're almost 3/4 of the way through.
Right.
But those pump stations are very active in the spring, and they typically generate more electricity, bigger electricity users in the spring.
Probably as a result of rainwater.
Yeah. So hopefully that drops off as well.
So it looks good right now, but I think Jeff is right. It appears it's going to be close, but I think he has some flexibility within the budget to address that if he should come up short.
Okay. Well, that's good. Any other questions on sewer? All right, we've got a total department. This would be DPW recommended budget by town manager of $5,053,078. The original appropriation for 2017 was just under 4.9 million, so we're talking about $154,000 increase into 153, excuse me. Any final questions, and then we'll get to the CIP on this?
Motion to recommend?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thanks, everyone. Okay.
Hopefully they match.
Okay. So I'm just going to call out the divisions that we've got here. If there's any questions by division. The first one I see listed, and please stop me if I'm out of order on this, would be the engineering division, which is primarily drainage and a jet vac truck.
Correct. The engineering division, typically the funds used for this project are 100% drainage infrastructure related, pipes, catch basins. But as we move forward, what we're finding is a lot of the stormwater maintenance, we're utilizing the vac truck for cleaning the catch basins. And so where the sewer department obviously is using that as well to maintain their system and being an enterprise account, we felt as though it may be more appropriate to share that cost between drainage and sewer. So going forward, when we're looking for the replacement of that vehicle, we're sharing that cost 50-50.
What's the cost of one of these? I see...
Something, Jeff?
Really?
5, okay.
So this is a shared cost with
Okay, 5-year, yeah, it's a 5-year lease purchase. So it's shared with Sewer Enterprise.
shared with, so, because I did see another jet vac in there, and I wasn't too sure how to correlate. So that's for one truck,
Right,
one addition. How many do we have now available? Just one?
yeah.
Will this be a replacement or an add, or is that a maybe?
You keep that one, Jeff, as a
We'll
backup?
have to see.
It's a maybe.
It's in okay condition, so
Yeah.
we may keep it as spare.
Okay.
And I think it's safe to say that the drainage maintenance portion was probably more of an impact to the vehicle itself, just because of the nature of the material we're removing. So we may, going forward, if the existing truck is in fairly decent shape, continue using both, and we may use the current truck we have for drainage where there's more wear and tear, maintaining the catch basins.
Okay. I recommend we continue to rely on the fleet maintenance folks. Get to know them, keep these things up, Any questions on this? No? All right, next, Highway Division. All sorts of things going on. We got payments that are being completed in fiscal 19 on at least 2 trucks. Final payments in fiscal 20 on 4 trucks, if I'm looking correctly. I had 2 questions, Bill. One, the F-550 pickup with plow. I see 50,000 in 2020, but I also note that this is supposed to be a 2-year. 50 grand doesn't cover that one, does it? Or am I on a wrong lineup?
Might be, it's a typo. Right, that was
That's
not.
an outright purchase.
Right, outright purchase.
So we'll remove that.
So it's not a lease purchase, not a 2-year,
No, it's
whatever it is.
1 year.
1 year. Is 50 grand enough for 550?
Yeah, I think we looked at what the cost was on the
Okay.
previous truck.
I just didn't know if we had missed a year on that or... My other question on this is the roller, which is out in fiscal 2022. What is that piece?
The roller is something that the highway employees have been looking for several years. I mean, it'd be nice to purchase something sooner. It's when we do a lot of the patching work, the current roller we have is very small. It doesn't do an adequate job. I can remember being on a large patch we did on Hurd Street, trying to roll it with the smaller roller, and it was kind of, it just didn't do a good job of adequate compaction. So this is moving forward to help us with doing more of our own roadway repair work and making sure that comes out professional quality. Also helps with any of the driveway work sometimes we have to do, driveway aprons, sometimes we have to do repairs. And again, right now we're depending on, we'll rent a roller from typically ATS as needed. So what we try to do is any of the projects that we have, we'll do them during the same week, in the week that we need that roller, and we'll rent the roller for the week. So going forward, we'd like to see about purchasing a roller.
And would that be replacing the current piece of equipment or in
It
addition?
would, but the current piece of equipment is something that there's really no real replacement value to it.
To it, okay,
It's probably a 1-ton roller. It's very small.
okay. All right, any other questions on the Highway Division, CIP? The next would be the Sewer Division. I just had some comments on the jet trucks. It's good there. So fiscal 19 is the last year of the sewer pumps, if I'm looking at that correctly. Fiscal 19?
Sewer pumps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. And then the jet vac. All right. Any other questions? All right. The cemetery. Any questions on that? Right. Next one I see is the parks. Any questions on that? Did it, Bill? Okay. All right. Any final questions or comments for Bill or any of our
Police is-
Superintendents.
And the parks, just the same question for the 1-ton dump with plow. It has 2-year lease purchase, and there's only one payment listed up.
Let's see. On dump truck, 2-year LP.
That's the 27,000.
Oh,
no,
part of it's 18, so
We have
it's,
25
right,
in 18 and 25 in 19.
right.
Under parks?
Oh, wait a minute, no, yeah, 18. Yeah, there's 1 year is 2018, and then 1 year 2019. Is there another one? And then also under there, the two 27,000 payments.
Don't have anything in
Are
20.
you looking at the second one on the list?
For the second item,
Booked.
Oh, you're way up top.
27 grand in fiscal '21.
Okay. Have to look at that. Is there a sheet?
1-ton dump with plow.
We see it now.
2021.
Yeah, second one down.
1-ton dump with plow. I mean, yeah, we'll have to look at that. That's 2-year. That's for 2021. For 2022, let me just see. Yeah, I don't think we have one for 2022.
How many you needed? Did we accelerate that? Is that this one here?
I don't think we accelerated it.
Is it in highway?
No.
No.
No, it would be separate. It might not be a dump truck. It might just be a 1-ton.
Okay, just whatever. Is that
We're
a,
gonna have to take a look at the paperwork.
is your guess at this point that that should have been a 2-year?
Quite possibly. I'd have to go through some of Wayne's equipment in the Parks Department and see if,
We'll identify that.
check that.
All right. Good, nice catch, Mallory. All right. Any other questions? All right.
Yeah.
This is.
Bill, gentlemen, thanks for your time. I do appreciate it. Once again, thanks for the work, and hopefully everyone stayed safe yesterday.
Thank you. And I publicly want to thank all my guys for their hard work yesterday. It was a lot of hours, and they did a great job, so I really, really appreciate their efforts.
Absolutely. Wayne, you can wake up Ken now and take him home. Yeah,
With the toothpicks, take him out of his eyelids.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Thank
you
you.
look great sleeping, though. Really, you do. Thanks again, guys. Do appreciate your time. We're going to plan our storms better for when you guys come up here. All right. Norm's here. It only means one thing. Youth Services, right? Youth Commission.
Contractual services that we've actually been providing.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Well, thanks for coming, and appreciate your patience. Town provides for Youth Commission annually. We've got an increase this year, which is great. The increase is $2,500 to $120,000 over last year's $117,500 appropriation. Norm, can you give us just a real brief on some of where this money goes to? We know it doesn't cover all of your needs.
Obviously, the budget doesn't come close to covering a lot of the services that we have. The $2,500 that we're looking for is, there's a lot of counseling hours that are provided, and due to the cost of the counseling and different stuff like that, we wanted to at least provide a modest increase in that budget, part of the budget, so that we can cover for the extensive hours that they've been putting in for all of the different programs that they do. plus the fact that on most of them, any counseling that you look at, we go well above whatever the contracted hours are. For the high school right now, we're 140 hours over. For the family counseling, we're almost 300 hours over what we contract for. So for the hours and the time that they put in, we thought that we could at least ask for an increase to help cover some of the costs of that. We had gone back and forth talking about maybe even, to look for a bigger one, and we will, I think, for next year, we will have to come back. We're lucky that through the fundraising and through the grant writing that they do at Auburn Youth and Family Services, they come up and they can cover the costs of, their budget goes annually over $300,000 to it's up over $330,000 this year. So, for us to provide, the $120,000 that we can, that is good, and I think it's a legitimate request to help cover those hours. I will let you know that we are going back and forth and looking at other things that we can do to kind of help the organization out for what they do and for the service they provide to the town. But for this year, that's what it was for.
Good, no, appreciate it, and no, the requests are, we do what we can, but we do appreciate you coming back with what you think you need on that, so we appreciate the safety net that this is helping to provide, which makes things easier for schools, parents, even for the public safety part of what goes on in town.
It's an organization that people are aware of, but there's referrals always from the police department, there's referrals from all the schools. They work interactively with those organizations to fill any need that they see that might come under their umbrella of services they provide. And for what they do, I think it's just a small request to kind of help them out for what they do for the town.
Absolutely. I'll open up to any questions. Kevin?
Just a quick question. So, Norm, can you just explain, so the Youth Commission funding goes directly, and I see Sally Dargando here from Auburn Youth and Family Services, it goes directly to them in order to provide the services? Is that how?
What it is the Auburn Youth Commission, we put up a contract for services that, the town wants them to provide. It's certain things within the schools and different counseling that they do. Plus they're there to do other stuff that they have to. But we write up the contract, and then our budget is to fund whatever part of that we can. Again, all of the contract services that we've asked for, they annually will run up between $250,000 to $300,000. So we're asking for a small part of that. Again, we're lucky with the staff that they have. They always go for grants, and we all know what their fundraisers are. Different stuff like that. You're next for dancing, I think. I don't know what's going to be going on with it before I get out there and do a little hustle for everybody. So.
Hustle for other reasons.
But it's really good for the efforts that they do, and I think it helps make people aware in the town of the organization and what they do and how important they are to the fabric of what we do in the town. So.
Okay. And once again, I think if this wasn't there, if Youth and Family Services wasn't there, our budgets for the police, to some extent fire, certainly the schools, would have a heck of a lot more pressure on that for the needs that are being provided for or attended to with Youth and Family Services. So, once again, it's best that the town can do in terms of balancing needs and, taxpayer needs, that kind of thing. So
we try to keep, fiscally within, where we can, but again, because of what they do, this was just a small little request to help cover those added costs to what they do.
Yeah, no, I'm just actually happy that when we open this up, that I'm looking at fiscal 14, we're at 110,000, and we've been able to move that number up because for several years we couldn't do that.
Right.
So it's nice that the town's in a little better place and can provide, a 2.13% increase,
Right.
if you do the math on that. So, any other questions on this budget?
No, motion to recommend?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, so voted. Thanks for coming up. Good to see you every
It's
year.
always fun.
And feel free to come up anytime with a budget need.
All right. Good,
Try to
good.
help.
It's there, and we're gonna definitely look at it and see where we can go with the different stuff. And Sally and her staff really do a lot to help.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Thanks for your patience tonight.
Thank you for the routes and
No, that's okay. So let's hold off on the minutes. We'll get to that anyway, so. That's it for our agenda tonight. Once again, our budgets next week include town clerk and elections, school department, Bay Path, and the Norfolk assessment. So we're still looking okay in terms of,
So a little glitch that just came to our attention for next week. As a result of last night's snowstorm, there was a meeting scheduled here, planning board meeting, that was canceled.
okay,
It's been rescheduled for next Wednesday, the same time that we meet. So there has been a conservation meeting in the planning board room. Planning board was supposed to meet here. I would offer, if there isn't any objection, maybe to potentially meet, and it's something that just came to our attention late this afternoon, that we potentially could meet in the presentation room at the high school if there's no objection. We have to check with the superintendent. If that's not available, then we'd have to look at an alternative site. The only reason planning board needs to be here because they have scheduled hearings that are posted for town hall. And those were postponed till next week.
okay. Presentation room sounds fine if we can get it. You're saying you're not positive if...
Well, we didn't check with schools. I don't know if anything has been programmed in that room for next week, or if not, we could potentially look at the community room at the police department or maybe some other area.
No, that's fine. I do want to keep to this schedule.
Yeah.
I think we've got it kind of worked out pretty tight, but we should be able to get it done by April 5th, even with taking a week off. So Sharon, you'll let us know then? And that would still be at 7 o'clock, correct? Good. Okay. Sound good by everyone?
Yep.
So fine. Okay, that's what we have left to do for next week, and we'll take it from there. So I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thanks.